Ellis doesn't hunt shadows like Boyd or dig tunnels like Tabitha. He stays still, too still. That necklace he wears, it's called a Verdandi pin. An ancient Norse stake used to pin restless souls to the earth so they can never ever leave.
Ellis has never seemed like the type of person this town would pick for anything significant. Unlike Jade, who hunts for answers, Boyd, who chases shadows, or Tabitha, who digs into the past, Ellis simply stays put. He brings calm to those around him, ensuring that no one breaks in ways that can't be repaired. In a place where movement often leads to chaos, Ellis's stillness feels almost suspicious. In the old songs shared quietly by the bog dwellers before the earth claimed their voices, they sang of the Verdandi pin. It wasn't a weapon for killing or a compass for guidance. It was a stake. In ancient northern rites, when a soul was too restless to move on yet too dangerous to remain, priests would drive a sharpened rowan branch through the heart of the deceased, pinning them to the soft, dark earth. They called it Haltu Kiru, keep still. The necklace Ellis wears embodies that ancient silence, reshaped for the modern world. The pendant resembles a silver stake, its tip crafted like a sharp arrow, always pointing upward. But it doesn't aim for the heavens. Instead, it directs itself toward the upworld, acting as a lightning rod for the heavy atmosphere that envelops the town. At its base, a tiny curled sprout, a delicate blend of copper and tin, clings to the stake. It acts like a parasite of stone, a living root that feeds on the wearer's heartbeat. And he wears that necklace constantly except during the colony massacre. This blunt, upward-pointing stake, adorned with tiny dots and a small sprout-like hook at its base, might easily be dismissed as handmade trinket. However, it becomes harder to overlook once you begin to recognize the patterns. 19 marks, 9 on one side, 9 on the other, 1 at the top. The 19 dots etched into the surface represent a deeper contract. 9 on the left commemorate the ancestors lost in the Great Bloom of 1978. 9 on the right honor the souls currently roaming the colony house dust. The solitary 19th point at the summit signifies Ellis himself. He is the bridge. The 19-year cycle, the Metonic dance where the moon and sun finally align, is the heartbeat of the prison. Every 19 years, the gates of the abyss crack open, and a new stake is required. A man who will not flee. Throughout the town's history, cycles don't erase one another, they overlap. Victor's childhood massacre in 1978 didn't conclude anything. It left behind remnants that the present continues to stumble over. Objects resurface. Places feel worn before anyone even touches them. People dream of events before they unfold or recall moments they've never experienced. It resembles less of a sequence of timelines and more of two complete systems running in parallel, bleeding through at pressure points. The solitary point at the top is where those circuits touch. Not merge, not reconcile, just exchange enough information to keep both alive. A crosstalk node. Without it, the past would remain buried, and the present would never inherit the damage. With it, the system sustains itself. Ellis exists precisely where those inheritances are crucial. He is Boyd's son, directly linked to the town's authority structure, but he resides in Colony House, the emotional heart that stands against the sheriff's rules. He navigates between those worlds without fully belonging to either. When tensions rise, he's the one physically standing in the gap, transforming anger into something manageable. Not solving issues, but stabilizing them. The stake shape reinforces that concept. In bog burials across northern Europe, bodies were sometimes pinned down with wooden stakes after death, not to kill them, but to prevent them from rising or returning. This act wasn't aggression, it was containment. You anchor what you fear might move. Flipping that logic upward adds a layer of complexity. This stake points upward, not downward. Instead of driving something into the earth, it resembles something emerging from the earth toward the surface. Not a tether, but an antenna. A conductor drawing whatever pressure exists below. Memory, trauma, whatever energy flows in this place, into the air where people live, diffusing it so it doesn't erupt all at once. Ellis doesn't fix the town, he absorbs it. He carries the emotional weight. The spirals of grief, the anger, the quiet despair, preventing it from exploding into violence or collapse. A grounding rod made of flesh and blood. You don't notice the lightning rod during a storm, you notice that the building stands afterward. The materials also hold significance. Wire appears in this town whenever someone attempts to connect things that were never meant to meet. Jim gathers wire to construct a radio tower, hoping to bridge the town with the outside world. Ellis uses wire to create an engagement ring for Fatima, trying to formalize a future in a place that consumes futures, a cable, not a crown. The small sprout shape at the bottom adds further complexity. It looks like a handle or a root, or the beginning of something that hasn't fully grown. Not ornamental embellishment, a functional grip, the part you'd grasp if you needed to pull the stake free. When he offered Fatima the wire ring, he wasn't merely promising a life, he was inviting her into the circuit. The sprout at the bottom of his sigil has begun to pulse with a new dark rhythm. The pregnancy is not a miracle of life, but a biological thickening of the anchor. The system is growing new roots. Biological anchors in this place often relate to reproduction. Fatima's pregnancy begins as hope, proof that life can endure here, before twisting into something profoundly unsettling, culminating in the emergence of a creature rather than a child. Not creation, but reconfiguration. As if the system utilized the available biological pathway to produce what it needed, not what the parents intended. If Ellis is the stake, that pregnancy was the root trying to dig deeper, locking the pin into more layers of whatever this reality rests upon. Vertical expansion. More grip. When it failed to produce a human child, it still generated continuity, just not the kind anyone desired. Ellis does this instinctively. He doesn't seek authority, chase revelations, or try to outsmart the town. He remains where he is, making that position livable for others. In a closed system, that's more valuable than exploration. Exploration alters variables. Anchors keep variables from drifting far enough to cause the system to crash. The 19 marks ensure that whatever cycle began in earlier eras and whatever cycle is currently in motion remains synchronized enough to coexist. Not harmonized, just aligned enough for the present to inherit the past's unfinished business. Ellis stands at that alignment point, whether he realizes it or not. Not because he's special in a mythic sense, but because he occupies the intersection of relationships that are structurally significant. Boyd's son, Fatima's partner, resident of Colony House, loyal to the town, a person who belongs to incompatible groups simultaneously, preventing them from drifting too far apart. A living junction. If the place runs on the tension between domains, past and present, authority and community, survival and despair, then someone must conduct that tension safely. Wire doesn't eliminate current. It guides it along a path that doesn't incinerate the system. Ellis is that path. The necklace doesn't grant him this role, it marks it. A schematic worn against his chest, close to the heart, where stress first accumulates. The horror isn't found in the monsters that howl at the door, it lies in the stability. Two forces, the hunter and the hunted, would eventually destroy one another. But the stake, the third point of the pact, creates a stagnant peace. Ellis is the grounding wire. The necklace may seem makeshift, twisted from the same conducting wire Jim used for his tower, but its purpose is far older. It symbolizes a guardian who doesn't realize he's a prisoner. He wears the tool of his own confinement, believing it to be art. As long as the 19 points remain synchronized, as long as the stake points true, the town will stay balanced. The ceiling will hold, the monsters will remain outside, and the people will stay trapped in a perfect, eternal afternoon of decay.